place one hand on a sunlit window, then place the other hand on a section of wall that is in the shade. They are both part of the same house, but one side is quietly feeding heat into the room faster than the air conditioner can remove it. That is why so many homes stay hot, even when the air conditioner runs continuously. We are trying to cool the air after the sun has already heated the windows, walls, floors, and furniture. Traditional Japanese homes reverse that order completely. They block heat from the outside, create a path for hot air to escape naturally, and open the house only when the outdoor air is genuinely cooler. In this video, you will learn how to turn those principles into a simple system for your own home. And the thing that makes the biggest difference is not the fan, the air conditioner, or the number of windows. It is what you do before the room begins to heat up. You do not need to turn your home into an old Japanese house. You also do not need to stop using air conditioning on dangerously hot days. What is useful here is a different way of thinking. Instead of waiting for heat to pass through the windows and soak into the walls, floors, and furniture, we create a system that helps the house absorb less heat from the beginning. In the morning, the house blocks the heat that has not entered yet. In the afternoon, it reduces the amount of heat building up inside. In the evening, it creates a path for hot air to escape, and at night, it holds on to the cool air that usually goes to waste the next day. Every step can begin with one small change. Many of these steps cost nothing, and you do not need to do all of them at once. For more simple, practical, and easy-to-maintain home systems like this, subscribe to The Quiet Home. Before buying new curtains, sunshades, or any other equipment, do one thing that takes less than 5 minutes. Find the hottest spot in your home. In the late afternoon, walk through each room. You do not need professional equipment. Simply notice where direct sunlight falls on the floor, a table, or a chair. Gently touch the wall near each window. Stand beside every pane of glass and notice which one is radiating the most heat. For a multi-story home, compare the lower floor with the upstairs bedrooms. For a home with a concrete patio, balcony, or walkway next to an exterior wall, notice how long that area continues to radiate heat after the sun has moved away. You are creating a very simple heat map. The purpose is not to begin a major renovation project. It is to answer one question: where is heat entering your home most aggressively? Many families try to cool the entire house, when most of the heat may be entering through a single west-facing window. Finding the right hotspot allows you to address the cause, instead of trying to cool every room at the same time. This is where a principle inspired by Japanese homes becomes especially useful: block the sunlight before it reaches the glass. In traditional Japanese homes, sudare are thin screens made from bamboo or reeds and hung outside windows or along covered porches. They do not seal the room shut. Small gaps still allow soft light and air to pass through, but the direct sunlight is blocked before it reaches the glass or any indoor surface. The important point is not that you need to buy an authentic sudare screen. The important point is where the shade is placed. When a curtain is inside the room, the sunlight has already passed through the glass. The glass, floor, and furniture begin to heat up, and then they continue radiating that heat back into the room. Indoor curtains are still useful for reducing glare and providing privacy, but when the goal is to reduce solar heat, exterior shading usually addresses the problem earlier. Exterior shading is like opening an umbrella before stepping into the sun. You deal with the heat before it becomes a job for the air conditioner. For homeowners, the solution might be a small awning, an outdoor sunshade, or a roll-up bamboo screen mounted above the hottest window. For renters, look for something removable. You could tie shade cloth to a balcony railing, hang a bamboo screen with hooks, install a shade panel with securing cords, or use a lightweight frame that does not require deep drilling. In an apartment with a balcony, simply shading the glass that receives the afternoon sun can make the surrounding area noticeably more comfortable. Color also matters. A light-colored shade usually reflects more sunlight than a dark surface. But do not turn this into a complicated shopping project. Begin with the window that makes you avoid the room in the afternoon. One window, one layer of shade, 1 week of observation. Timing matters just as much as the material. When a window begins receiving direct sunlight at 1 in the afternoon, the shade needs to be lowered before 1. When strong sunlight does not arrive until 4, you do not need to keep the room dark all day. The house does not need to stay sealed like a box. It only needs to know when to accept the light and when to reject the heat that comes with it. A larger version of the same principle is called noki, the deep roof overhang found in many examples of traditional Japanese architecture. The overhang creates a shaded area across the windows and walls. During summer, when the sun is higher in the sky, the overhang blocks much of the direct sunlight. During colder seasons, when the sun is lower, the light can still reach farther into the house. You do not need to rebuild your roof. Think of noki as a design principle. Shade a surface before that surface turns into a radiator later in the evening. A wall or balcony that has been exposed to sunlight for hours can continue releasing heat after sunset. Whenever possible, shade the area around the window, not only the glass itself. A small awning over a glass door, an open plant trellis, an outdoor screen, or a properly angled shade sail can reduce direct sunlight across an entire section of wall. When using plants, leave enough space for air to move, and avoid creating moisture or insect problems directly against the house. The goal is not to cover everything. The goal is to create shade where the most heat is being absorbed. After finding the main hotspot, create one small morning habit. Before leaving home or beginning work, check which side of the house will receive the strongest sunlight. Lower the exterior shade in that area. Close the windows when the outdoor air is already hotter than the indoor air. Close the indoor curtains for extra support, but do not treat them as your only line of defense. This may take less than 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes happen before the problem begins, so they are often much more valuable than 20 minutes spent trying to cool the room at the end of the day. Once the timing for opening and shading becomes clear, the house no longer forces you to deal with the entire heat load late in the day. Tonight, do not try to fix every window. Choose one location. Stand there during the hottest part of the day, observe the direction of the sunlight, and decide what kind of shade could be placed outside the glass. You may already have a bamboo screen, a piece of outdoor fabric, or a balcony shade that can be repositioned. Use the simplest option first. When a west-facing window is the hottest part of your home, leave the number 1 in the comments. I want to see how many people are dealing with this exact problem. Once the house is no longer absorbing heat as quickly as before, the next step is not to create stronger wind. You need to give the trapped hot air a clear path out. A room can be shaded fairly well and still feel stuffy because the hot air inside has nowhere to escape. The most common mistake is opening one window and waiting for the breeze to find its own way inside. Sometimes you may feel a little air directly beside the window frame, but when you step back about 10 feet, or roughly 3 meters, the room still feels completely still. Air may be entering, but it does not have a clear exit. It swirls around near the window instead of moving through the space. An important principle in many traditional Japanese homes is not simply the sliding doors or shoji screens. It is the ability to open the space in multiple directions, giving the air one path in and another path out. One window only creates an entrance. Air needs another opening on the opposite side of the room or at the end of a hallway before it can truly move through the space. You can test this immediately without buying a fan. Open a window on the cooler side of the house or on the side, receiving a gentle breeze. Then open another window on the opposite wall. When the two windows are not in the same room, open the interior door and use the hallway as a connecting path. Stand in the middle of that airflow path, not directly beside a window, and notice whether the air is actually moving past your body. Use a thin piece of paper or the edge of a curtain to test it. When it moves only near the window but remains still in the center of the room, the airflow is not traveling through the space. Try closing unnecessary doors and keeping only the two main ends open. Many people assume that opening more windows is always better, but too many openings can sometimes scatter the airflow instead of directing it through the area that needs ventilation. When a bedroom has windows on only one wall, do not immediately assume that cross-ventilation is impossible. Open the bedroom door. Then, open a window at the end of the hallway, in the bathroom, or in another space on the opposite side of the home. The bedroom door now becomes the middle section of the airflow path. In a small apartment, the balcony door can serve as one end, while a kitchen or bathroom window serves as the other. In a single-story house, a front door and a back door can create a path through the main living area. Of course, only do this when safety and security conditions allow it. Opening the house is not always the right choice. When the outdoor air is hotter than the indoor air, you may be bringing more heat inside. When there is smoke, dust, a high pollen count, or outdoor humidity that makes the home less comfortable, keeping everything closed may be the better choice. A good system does not follow one fixed schedule. It responds to the actual conditions. That is why a simple indoor and outdoor thermometer can be more useful than a complicated device. When the air outside is cooler, create an airflow path. When the air outside is hotter, keep the cooler air inside and focus on shade. But some evenings are completely still. You open two windows on opposite sides of the house and feel almost nothing. At that point, the house needs to use a different direction. Instead of moving air from side to side, you need to move it from low to high. Warm air is usually lighter than cool air, so it tends to rise. When there is a low opening that allows cooler air to enter, and a high opening that allows hot air to escape, the temperature difference can help create movement, even when there is very little wind outside. This is commonly known as the stack effect or the chimney effect. In a two-story house, try opening a downstairs window on the shaded side and an upstairs window on the warmer side. Keep the stairway doors open to create one continuous path. The hot air collecting upstairs now has a way out, while cooler air from downstairs can be drawn in to replace it. In a single-story home, you can still take advantage of height differences when you have a high window, a ventilation opening, a skylight, or a low door on the opposite side. The actual results depend on the temperature difference, the direction the house faces, and the layout of the rooms. You do not need to remember the technical term. You only need to remember two questions. Where can cooler air enter? Where can the hottest air escape? When both answers point to the same window, the room may still feel difficult to breathe in. When one opening is low and shaded, while the other is higher, the house has a better chance of releasing its own heat. Tsuboniwa, the small shaded courtyards found in Japanese architecture, suggest the same principle. Draw air from the cooler side and allow hot air to escape from a higher position. You do not need to build a courtyard. Find the coolest area your home already has. It might be a north-facing window, a covered corner, a shaded backyard, or a downstairs area that always stays cooler than the floor above. Use that area as the air intake, instead of opening windows randomly in places that are being heated by direct sunlight. I have noticed that many homes do not lack windows. They simply have not assigned a clear role to each opening. A window that is good for morning light may not be the best window to open in the late afternoon. A window on the cooler side may work well as an evening air intake, while its upstairs window becomes the exhaust. Once each opening has a specific role, you no longer need to walk around the house opening everything and hoping for the best. The indoor air now has a path out, but heat does not exist only in the air. It is also stored in concrete, stone pavers, balconies, and walkways around the house. You can feel this after sunset. the outdoor air begins to cool, but when you stand beside a concrete patio or a west-facing wall, you can still feel heat radiating from it. Those surfaces have absorbed sunlight for hours and are now releasing the heat they stored. A long-standing Japanese summer practice called uchimizu involves sprinkling a moderate amount of water over a walkway, courtyard, or outdoor surface. As the water evaporates, it draws some heat out of the surface, which can make the area near the ground feel more comfortable for a while. Uchimizu creates only a localized effect, so focus on a small area that is still radiating heat, such as the patio outside the kitchen door or the balcony beside a glass door. Do this after the area is shaded. Use only a moderate amount of water, and avoid leaving the surface slippery or allowing water to collect. When water is poured onto a surface under intense midday sunlight, it may evaporate very quickly without creating a lasting sense of relief. Wait until the late afternoon or early evening when direct sunlight is no longer hitting the surface. A small watering can that distributes water evenly is usually more practical than pouring an entire bucket onto one spot. When you have an appropriate source of reusable water that does not contain strong cleaning chemicals, you may use that instead of consuming additional fresh water. But do not allow water to collect beside the foundation, in dark cracks, or anywhere that could encourage mold or insects. In a dry climate, evaporative cooling is usually easier to feel. In an already humid climate, the benefit may be smaller and shorter-lived. This is a supporting layer, not the primary solution for days with extreme heat. The most valuable lesson from uchimizu is the attention it brings to the surfaces surrounding the house. A room can continue heating up because the patio outside the door is still releasing heat. A dark balcony surface can cause a glass door to become hot again in the evening. Sometimes the solution is not inside the room. It is directly outside its boundary. Combine these layers in the correct order. First, block the sunlight that has not entered yet. Next, create a horizontal path so air can move through the house. When the wind is weak, add a low to high path so hot air can rise and escape. Finally, selectively address outdoor surfaces that are still holding heat. You do not need to do everything every day. A breezy afternoon may require only cross ventilation. A completely still day may require both a low opening and a high opening. A balcony exposed to sunlight all day may need shade first, followed by selective surface cooling in the evening. What is the hottest room in your home? Is it the bedroom, the living room, or the kitchen? Leave only the name of that room in the comments. Your answer also tells you where to begin. A bedroom should prioritize nighttime airflow. A west-facing living room should prioritize exterior shading. A kitchen that stays hot after dinner may need a faster, higher exhaust path. Airflow helps heat leave the room. But nighttime comfort also depends on what is touching your skin and how you use the coolest part of the day. On some nights, the thermometer does not show an extremely high temperature, but you still wake up because the back of your shirt is damp. The sheets cling to your skins, and the pillow traps heat directly beneath your head. This shows that the sensation of heat does not come only from air temperature. It also depends on humidity, air movement, and the materials touching your body. You may create good airflow, but when the fabric around your body holds sweat against your skin, the room can still feel stuffy. At the same temperature, a more breathable surface that dries more quickly may make sleep more comfortable without lowering the air conditioner any further. Tatami in traditional Japanese homes is one example of how materials are selected to match the way a room is used. Tatami mats are usually made from plant fibers, and their surface is very different from thick synthetic carpet. Tatami is not a cooling device, and it will not turn a hot room into a cool one. But it demonstrates an important principle. Indoor surfaces can make a space feel lighter and more breathable, or heavier and more oppressive, depending on how they hold heat and moisture. You do not need to replace your entire floor with tatami. Begin with the materials that remain in contact with your body for the longest time. Bed sheets, pillowcases, lightweight blankets, and sleepwear have a more direct effect than a decorative summer accessory. When you use thick polyester sheets and regularly wake up feeling damp and sticky, try a lightweight cotton or linen sheet set. These materials do not reduce the room temperature, but many people find that they feel more breathable and hold less moisture against the skin. Do not immediately buy an expensive set for every room. Test it on the bed where you have the most difficulty sleeping. Replace one layer first, such as the pillowcase or the top sheet. Observe how your skin feels over the next several nights. A good system should be tested through your actual experience, not accepted only because a product has the word cooling on its label. Apply the same idea to the curtains in your bedroom. A thick curtain can be useful for blocking light, but when it covers the entire window while you are trying to create evening airflow, it can block the air you just created a path for. You can tie the curtains back while releasing heat or combine a lighter indoor curtain with exterior shading. When a thick rug makes the bedroom feel stuffy or stays damp for a long time, consider storing it during the hottest months. Do not look only at the thermometer. Pay attention to whether your sheets and clothing help sweat evaporate or hold it against your skin. Materials can make your body feel more comfortable, but to reduce the heat stored in walls, floors, and furniture, you need to use the coolest part of the day at the right time. Japanese summer culture includes a custom called yuzuzumi, which can be understood simply as enjoying the cooler evening air. People sit on a porch, near an open doorway, or in a garden as the heat of the day begins to fade. The useful lesson for a modern home is not simply to sit outside. It is to change the way the house operates when the outdoor temperature begins to fall below the indoor temperature. During most of a hot day, opening the house does not automatically mean cooling it. When the outdoor air is hotter, every open door or window can bring additional heat inside. But after sunset, in places where the outdoor temperature drops far enough, that relationship reverses. The air outside can then help carry heat out of the house. This is when night flushing begins. Do not open the house simply because the sun has gone down. Wait until the outdoor temperature is lower than the indoor temperature. Then, open one point on the cooler side and another point on the opposite side or on an upper floor. Keep the interior doors open so the hot air has a clear route out. In a multi-story home, an upstairs window can become an escape route for the hot air that has collected above. When the bedroom is at the end of a hallway, open the bedroom door and create an airflow path to a window on the opposite side. In an apartment, use the balcony door and another window when the layout, safety, and security conditions allow it. A cool breeze may feel pleasant immediately, but allow it to continue long enough for the walls, floors, and furniture to release some of the heat they stored during the day. When you open the windows for only a few minutes and then close them, the air may temporarily feel cooler, but the hot surfaces will quickly warm the room again. In the morning, the cycle needs to be reversed. When the outdoor temperature begins to rise and approaches the indoor temperature, close the windows. Lower the exterior shade on the side that will receive strong sunlight. Close the indoor curtains for additional support, and keep the cooler air collected overnight inside for as long as possible. Many families do the opposite. They leave the windows open throughout the morning because the air initially feels pleasant, then forget to close them until the sunlight has already heated the room. By the afternoon, the air conditioner must handle both the newly introduced hot air and the heat radiating from the windows, walls, and furniture. Opening the house is only half of the system. Closing it at the right time is what preserves the result. Night flushing works best in places where nighttime temperatures are significantly lower than daytime temperatures. When the night remains hot, the humidity is very high, the air quality is poor, or opening the house is unsafe, Keep the home closed and use an appropriate form of active cooling. During dangerous heat waves, these methods are not a replacement for air conditioning or official safety guidance, especially for people who are more vulnerable to heat. The goal is to reduce the load on the cooling system, not to prove that you can tolerate extreme heat without using electricity. When you place all these principles side by side, you can see that they are not a collection of unrelated tricks. Together, they form a cycle. In the morning, close and shade the side receiving sunlight. During the day, keep the heat outside. When the outdoor air becomes cooler, open a path through the house. When the wind is weak, connect a low opening to a high opening. After the house has released its heat, close it again before the new day becomes hot. That is why the most important change is not necessarily buying a product. It is learning how to operate the house according to the time and conditions. A good curtain lowered too late still allows heat to enter. Two well-positioned windows opened while the outdoor air is hotter can still make the house less comfortable. A cool night with every window closed is a missed opportunity. You do not need to remember everything today. Begin with 3 small steps. Step 1. Identify one window, wall, or glass door that receives the most sunlight tonight. Stand near it in the late afternoon and find a way to create shade outside the glass, even when it is only a temporary experiment. Step 2. When the outdoor temperature begins to fall below the indoor temperature, create a clear airflow path. Open one door or window on the lower or cooler side, then open another on the opposite side or at a higher level. Use a lightweight piece of paper to check whether the air is actually moving through the space. Step 3. Over the next 3 days, record the time when the outdoor air begins to feel cooler than the indoor air and the time when the temperature begins rising again in the morning. These observations will reveal the best times to open and close your home based on your climate, the direction your home faces, and your daily schedule. These 3 steps do not require you to renovate your home. They simply help you see where heat is entering, where it is becoming trapped, and when it has an opportunity to escape. After testing the system, you may discover that the west-facing window is the biggest problem. You may discover that the bedroom does not need another fan. It may simply need an exit path at the other end of the hallway. The air conditioner may still need to run, but it may start later and stop earlier because the house is no longer absorbing uncontrolled heat throughout the day. That is the real goal of these Japanese-inspired principles. The goal is not to create a home that uses no electricity at all. The goal is not to turn summer into a test of personal discipline. The goal is to design simple boundaries and operating rhythms that allow the house to do part of the work for you. For more systems like this that make your home easier to live in, subscribe to The Quiet Home and watch the next video about Japanese home habits that reduce repetitive daily work. You do not need a perfectly cold home. You need a home that knows how to block heat before it becomes one more problem you have to fight.